Welcome back. It is July 29th, 2026. We are right on the cusp of the best season of the year. Fall's around the corner. We all know what that means. Football season. More importantly, Michigan Wolverines and our Detroit Lions. Really about in that 40 day, 35-day mark before toe meets leather. Looking forward to it. This is where we essentially will turn the page from the off season. We'll dive back into during at a later date when we get an update on that. But from here on out, it's football, football, football. We'll start off with the Michigan Wolverines. They're going to be they're closer to start than our Lions. But obviously, lots of going on with them and a lot of changes. Coaching staff, new players coming in. Got Bryce going into year two. Um, Strong recruiting class. Yeah, just a lot going on. So we're gonna dive into that. Look at talk about the schedule a little bit, but I'll kick it over to you, E. Just want to see um, just your thoughts, around what you heard around the coaching staff, the new coaching staff, and we'll just kind of jump in from there.
Yeah, so I think I take it back to early winter when we were kind of going over this, and the Marcus Freeman's and the so and so names that all being kind of thrown out there, and I kind of feel like this was the landing of Kyle Whittingham was a name that I think neither one of us had probably brought up much before. But I think a program that both of us have talked highly about over the years. That Utah, if any of those Pac-12 teams out there playing tough, it was Utah. A couple of times, truth be told, they came over here and, quite frankly, whooped our ass a handful of times while he was, or at least one time while he was head coach out there. So let's say I know that he is a solid coach. Where he's been there, done that. He has a lot of coaching experience under his belt. He's not like the youngest man in the world. He's also not, quite frankly, like the oldest guy in the world. So I think he still has some juice in the tank. And I think hopefully the resurgency of coming back to this program, kind of this new blood, shake it off, kind of wake up the air quote sleeping giant, even though we've only been down like a year and a half. I kind of think that's what I look for him to do, is kind of come here and just right the ship very quickly. Get rid of the stupid mistakes, just get good coaching back in here. Somebody that's putting in 110% effort.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think think for me, Mike, kind of running into a similar situation that Michigan basketball just can't win to, where you got a guy very successful, less resources, probably, talents probably, team more majority three stars. But the coaching is what's really been, what the difference in success. And I think they're 3-0, if I'm not mistaken, against Michigan. And we've kind of, like I said, watched them from afar. I've always kind of been a fan. I mean, I think they do, their identity did kind of remind me of Michigan, just real physical, run the ball. That's, play good defense. That's kind of been his MO. So just curious to see how he's able to, bring that over to the Midwest. And yeah, I mean, I think you continue to look at that team the last couple of years. I mean, obviously 2020, the year after the national championship, didn't have a quarterback. Um, Still was able to be in most games. 9-3 last year, freshman quarterback. Turmoil going on behind the scenes. Or excuse me, 8 games, 2024, 9 games, 2025. So I'm just like, you already said it. If you're able to just have a couple adjustments, flip possessions, here and there, just play more sound on defense. I mean, I think the sky's the limit for this team. They're able to pretty much retain everybody and just add to the pot from a roster standpoint. So,
Yeah, and not to kick down
right,
uh,
definitely.
the coach that was here before. I think I this time last year I was super hyped about what we had going on.
Oh,
But
yeah.
if even 30% is true of what they're saying, he just wasn't doing the things necessary to win at that high of a level like the team is
Right,
used to get. You have to be a freak to win at that level, no matter who you are, whether you're John
right.
Harbaugh, whether you're Kirby Smart, whether you're whoever. These guys are fanatics when it comes to this, and and that's who it takes. And
It's kind of done a bad hand,
yeah,
coaching staff pulled apart. Like,
mm-hmm. No,
I
for
think
sure.
I think given the circumstances, they are still somewhat successful. So it's curious to see,
Yeah, no, the identity was there as far as
yeah,
we seen. We didn't get too far. The wheels didn't fall off. We had a
right,
couple
yeah,
flats. We had a couple, and if
yeah,
we can quickly get back on this ramp here, it's not we. I think we can easily get back in the college football playoff mix. And
yeah,
just I took asked our old dear friend ChatGPT earlier today when we kind of got the talking points, and I wanted to know Kyle Whittingham, just in a nutshell, what's his philosophy? And since 2010, which would be the last 16 years, he averages about 57% runs, um, running the ball per season, about 43% pass. So that's about right in line with our identity.
yeah,
Um, the biggest outlier on that was in 2019. He did run the ball 65% of the time. Other than that, it's been right about give or take a couple percent. They said he favors dual threat quarterbacks. He favors quarterbacks that can go get kind of, he said they favor dual threat quarterbacks, tough running quarterbacks, protects the ball, and efficient rather than volume passers is who he has. Cam Rising, his best quarterback he's had while he was there, Tyler Huntley in the
yeah.
second. So you kind of look at those type of guys, and then last year, I forget his name, but I think his last name's like Gampier.
Derek Dampier, yeah, he had a
Very
great
solid.
season.
So if you know
Yeah,
you kind of, I think not exactly, but if you look at it, then you could mimic that his play style with what Bryce should have. Bryce should be able to mimic that, I should say. So I'm looking at that, just kind of writing the ship on that. We got a running back game. The old line should be about pretty sound. So, I think overall, him coming here, I know if we want to talk about the defense, I think he brought a defensive coordinator over as well.
yeah.
So, you know,
So, I, I think one thing, I mean, is we kind of just, one like spotlight even, talking to coaches that we'll talk about the roster as well, but you know, quarterback coach. They had a guy that essentially was like, he came from New Mexico State, if I'm not mistaken. Dampier came with him, and it seems like it's a pretty like quarterback friendly offense where guys are going to pick up on it rather quickly. So just be curious to see how Bryce with a little more coaching will be able to and a little more time in that offense over time. I think it might be a little rocky to start just because it is a new offense, but once he really gets the hang of it, curious to see how he does.
yeah, I think that's one good thing about coaches. I think good coaches can use the players they have around them and lean into it.
Mhm.
And he seems to have done this with his quarterback, going back for many years. They're just pretty solid stats.
Yeah,
He's getting a lot done with guys who, and we're pretty big college football fans, and there's dudes I can't name on this list. Like a Travis Wilson, Kendall Thompson. Dudes who had 2,100 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 500 rushing yards. We couldn't name them. You know, so I say if you can mimic that here, we're in the playoff.
right.
so, and obviously it's not a direct apples to apples comparison, but you just think about what they say about kind of the lack of infrastructure Bryce might have had around him, and all that being said, and still have very sound stats. I'm excited just to kind of see the additional wrinkles. Guy who has a lot in his playbook, and a lot of coaching experience.
Yeah.
For
Not,
so he's
no,
motivated and wants to go get it done. I think we could have a good, I'm not guaranteeing championships or anything, but a good little 3 to 5 year run while he's with us. I also, truth be told, don't think he's here to ride it out for the next 10 years, 20 years with us. I think
right. Good
this
placeholder.
might be a splash. Might be a slash in the pan. So yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
very curious.
Yeah, good placeholder. I think every time I've seen him in an interview, he speaks very highly of the D coordinator. So, that could be kind of maybe like passing it off 4 or 5 years. But I don't know. I think overall, man, I think given the circumstances of like the timing, really just the timing, like this was just match made in heaven. I'm a fan of the hire, and It's curious to see how he's able to, do this first. I mean, it is, he's been able to dominate a couple different conferences and do his thing. Big Ten's a different animal, so we'll see what he's able to do.
For sure. No, I agree, and I think just to kind of put a bow tie on this, if you just want to talk about consistency, I forget the exact win total, but from the time he got hired in at Utah, it, through all of our coaching staffs, they have damn near identical record over the last like 22 years or whatever it was. So that just shows you the level of consistency that he has year in and year out put up about what we have. And you know how we've had some very high peaks there in the last 2 decades. We've also
Mhm.
had some low lows, but it just shows you the level of that you can't top out at. So no, I'm looking forward to it, man. Just watch the boys get back out there and
Yeah,
starting with Bryce, kind of that next. We've been hearing about him since. Is he going to come? Is he going to come? Is he not going to come? Is it LSU? Is it us? And then the big decision was made. Kind of handed him the keys, and it seemed like that's all we needed. We were sitting here, Orgy and
yeah,
whoever else. It seemed like, hey, we can put this high school kid in here now, and he lets you know that college football is a little bit of a bigger animal than you would think, and some of these guys stepping in and throwing for 3,000 passing yards, 30 touchdowns rookie year. Either it might be the offense or they're really that special. So it just shows
yeah,
you a guy who he was thrown to the fire, had some ups, had some downs, but kind of what are you looking forward to seeing for what do you need to see from him this year? What are you looking forward to seeing? Um, as we approach Western Michigan week 1.
yeah. No, I think with him, man, it's gonna really just be, yeah, I mean, taking that next step. I mean, I think, obviously the talent's there, but it's gonna be, first and foremost protecting the football. I think it's gonna be, we saw a lot of cut ups of him just kind of also missing throws. I imagine he's going to be coached up to, kind of understand where guys are going to be at, what that looks like, timing and such. And so I think we're going to be in for a good season from him. And I don't know. And I think we were talking about Devin Dampier. Um, kind of through his stats up here real quick. Last year, 63.5% completion percentage, 2,400 pass yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 picks. Rushing, he was 146 attempts, 835 yards, 10 touchdowns. So I
Yeah,
think it's kind of like, you got a guy like Bryce Underwood, 3 or 4 inches taller, bigger, more, a lot, more talented. So it's uh it's gonna be exciting to see what he's able to do. But I think, yeah, really, protecting that football and playing within the offense, he's got a lot of weapons to just kind of make the correct play, kind of let everybody handle it from there too.
yeah. I I think we went. I say this jokingly, but me and my dad were texting, and my dad got hyped up after some of the interviews, and I'm like, yeah, and we're texting back and forth, Vince 2.0, Cam Newton 2.0, and then I joked and I was like, I'll take Devin Gardner 2.0, like it's, but I went back and looked, and I'm like, say I'd like to say if he can mimic like a Devin Gardner 2013 year, I think it was 2,500 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks, like 400, 500 yards on the ground. That's noticeably considering that the
Yeah.
workhorse we have in that backfield with Heitler and Marshall. So if them boys got 6, 7, 800 yards apiece, and then along with everything else in place, we in the hunt. So I don't want to put too much on him. I've also read that he was like 178 yards off of being in the top 10 passing yards for Michigan in a season. So when you think about how he's laughed at for his season last year, and
Yeah.
really what it comes down to is the lack of touchdown passes. And
Hmm.
if one or two less drops in the end zone, one or two misreads, better. If he would have had that at even sitting at 15, 16 touchdowns, I think a lot more less people be on his back. But he has to go out there and make it happen, and just like you said, play safe. Not you're not in high school no more. You can't take all those hits when you are running the ball. We need you out
Yeah.
there. Best ability is availability, and it's he has all the tools. And watching those games, he made some crazy throws. We had a lot of drops. We in outright he just missed some shit. just
Yeah,
frustrating. He would. Who was it? Is it the Washington game where he had like a pick? He had like one of the worst picks I've ever seen in my life. An amazing touchdown, followed up with one of the worst picks I've ever seen. It was,
yeah. He had a
roller
stink
coaster.
against Purdue. I
Maybe
think
that's what.
fumbled, touchback, threw an interception. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, he threw for just as many yards as Dan Pierre did, but yeah, he ended up having 11 touchdowns and 9 picks. So it's like you shave off a couple of these like tough, just like freshman mistakes.
Mhm.
You know, gotta imagine the operation could be a little cleaner.
And to his credit, I do think he had three in that Texas game.
Yeah,
Yeah. So when you look at it from that point of view, 11-6, like so you just really get them that touchdown up. Yeah,
yeah, it's not bad. So I think yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna really just like surprise some people. I think the guy from Utah, I think he's kind of butthurt that Whittingham left and took people, but I mean, like trying to say Bryce Underwood, like just some of the things he said about him, the safety that used to play in the NFL. I think some crazy things
little.
was kind of said. Weddle, I think some crazy things was
Yeah.
kind of said, like given like a freshman in the Big Ten 9-4 record. He's gonna be really good this year. And like you said,
No,
there's
he
fumble
was on.
past.
He was, and then I seen it, the little clip of him on the Coach JB show or whatever. I think after a while he kind of liked the attention. He just was leading into it, as far as just trashing them and saying so. But uh, I bet you he won't ever be allowed back on the campus, or
Right, yeah.
into so. But no, you can get all that negativity out of here. I think is enough of that to go around. Um, and truth be told, he did make some bonehead decisions, but I think when you consider the no direct quarterback coach, the nobody to sit there and watch and break down film with you, kind of just a guy who's there to. Sharon Moore's never really been there to mentor quarterback. John Harbaugh was a quarterback. He's mentored quarterbacks. Rich Rod had, for whatever it's worth, been around lots of quarterbacks. Had quarterbacks. He's an old line coach thrown into the fire probably a couple years too early, and then you hand him a young prodigy. And I think I've heard a couple people say, and it seems to be a little true. Bryce, he almost digressed over the year. Like you looked at like early on, who do we play? Like Air, New Mexico State that first game or something.
Hmm.
He was making better consistent passes in that game, obviously versus competition. But fast forward 8 weeks, he seemed to make worst reads and worst decisions. So I think that just shows you if you had the network around you to say, hey, keep your eye on this when this is happening, or hey, last week you got a little sloppy with this. I think kind of hold them accountable,
Right.
is what we were missing, especially for a young guy.
For sure, yeah, no, you think made a great point with that. Yeah, it's kind of just in hindsight, kind of looking back on everything, where it's kind of was like, yeah, it'll, yeah, I think it's as simple as like some of them small mistakes getting cleaned up, and it's gonna make the world a difference. Just kind of seeing stuff on film and understanding how to adjust. But yeah, I think kind of just even shifting gears to the skill players, the offense. Um, I don't know, it's gonna be weird. You're not gonna see, you might not see five, six, 6, 7 linemen, multiple tight ends, and some of these packages, just running the ball. I mean, like you say, he does favor, he does run the ball quite a bit, but it's gonna be interesting to see how some of this stuff will look. I mean, I know we definitely got the horses to be able to,
Mm.
run the rock. That Hyder guy, I mean, the stuff I'm hearing about him, and Marshall is pretty good in his own. Marshall is kind of reminds me of like a Chris Perry. But I think I mean about Hyder. I mean, I think that backfield could be pretty scary, and we've already seen what Marsh can do. I don't want to. I might have to find different comparisons. I don't want to like say this overreacting, like, or it's gonna sound kind of like I'm comparing this guy to him. I see Jamar Chase type traits. Like I just slippery, shifty. I just like some of the plays he made last year. Um,
Yeah,
got some of the other guys transferred from
sticky.
Texas. This guy from fresh or sophomore from Utah. Bryce, yeah, Bryce can have a lot of weapons.
Yeah. No, talking about Heitler, I seen some people talking about it. So Jake Butt was on some podcast with a guy I don't know, and they were talking about Heitler like he could be in the league next year if he really wanted to be. Like that's how much they were talking about this kid. Um, so it's one of those. I think he's going to be exciting, but I think Jordan Marshall going to be the workhorse. Especially probably early on the season, and then kind of work that kid in. Jordan Marshall, or sorry, I mean Nick Marsh, amazing. I think if he'd have been more of a focal point, I mean, we didn't start seeing that kid at probably like week 6. What I mean, like he was, and so if he would have been more consistent, the offense is better with him out there. So I think keeping him out there, I want to see what that line looks like. Was it Evan Link and oh my god, I'm blanking on my man's name. I'm gonna pull it back up.
I
It's
got
front Andrew
Babaloa.
Babiloa, all like we younger line, but a couple of them had many or started all last year as a sophomore or true freshman. So
Yeah.
they got a little bit of experience under their belt. Just kind of ease them in. Tight ends. We usually keep a good Rolodex of tight ends.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Zach Marshall will be solid. Hanson playing a little
yeah,
bit this
that's
last couple
it'll
years.
be the yeah.
Yeah, I think the talent on the outside. I mean, that's going to be like a real shot in the arm because we had Marshall. We had that guy from Indiana that used to be a quarterback that was decent. McCulley last year,
Mm-hmm.
Samaj, he had a pretty tough season. Um, he had Marlon Klein. He was pretty much hurt like the entire season after having a great, one or two games. So yeah, I mean health plays a factor. Um, Guys are healthier. If Bryce takes steps we think he's gonna take, and that
Right.
whole line, I mean, they were
The only
solid
weird
last
thing.
year. They're only gonna be better.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. I was gonna ask about somebody I seen right here. Yeah, no, and then I know the defense. I think we had a couple of players. Like I think the defense is gonna be a little like who is this anyway type of guy this year. Like I think we have a lot of players who are going to be kind of earning their names for the first time this year. For what it's worth, a couple. Rod Moore's back. Well, like you said, we don't know what he's going to be. Jair Hill seemed to be getting baptized last year, but did get better as the year went on. There's moments though where he just getting picked on, but
Yeah,
sometimes going through the fire makes you a little tougher. Uh,
yeah. I'm
John
looking now.
Daly or John Daly. uh, yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking here. I would
you
say
talk
as
about his
far
big
as,
injury, but he was leading.
yeah, I think I'm lagging again here. But no, we'll see how Henry Daly looks. Came off of Achilles late December, early December, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but I think overall, just kind of as far as like you said, it's kind of these guys stepping up and just kind of making a name. I mean, we do have guys like I think Cameron Brand was pretty good last year. Dominic Nichols, Trey Pierce played. Etta he played. Um, but I think my eyes is really going to be on uh, the the safeties and